Good morning on the welcome to Better Business Results. Good morning on the West Coast. Good afternoon on the East Coast. We're here to help the 53 million or work with the 53 million freelance contractors in the United States, small business owners, get off the hamster wheel and spend about 30 minutes working on your business this week. The idea is to generate about 3 different action items in order to propel your business forward and start to achieve some new and different results. Today we're employing the question and answer concept on Google Events. If you look on the right side of your screen, you should see the Q&A section, and if you type your question in there, we'll see that on the screen. We'll be able to respond and answer your question. Today we're fortunate to have Mr. Alaa, Yasin, who is the Executive Managing Director for E&Y Law Group. Alaa, join us.
Morning, John. Thank you for
Good
having
morning.
me.
It's a pleasure. So you know a little bit about what we do here at Business Wit. But why don't we share a little bit about who you are and what you are. So practicing attorney, and when did you get started, and why did you decide to go into this business?
I graduated law school in 2008, admitted into the bar in 2009, so I've been practicing for approximately 5.5 years or so. The whole influence in me getting into the law practice was family, obviously. My father initially wanted me to go to law school because he owns a lot of commercial properties and businesses, so I always thought being the legal eagle would be a good idea. But as I progressed in the legal field, I also had an interest in personal injury.
Personal injury, and so in your activities, what is it about your activity and daily work that is most satisfying?
Just being able to answer questions for clients who are really don't have enough knowledge about how their own insurance policies work when, for example, they're involved in some sort of accident, whether it be a vehicle accident, a slip and fall, some sort of dog bite. A lot of these people, laypersons, don't really know their rights. So I get satisfaction at actually explaining to them and interpreting with them what their insurance policies cover, the certain advantages and disadvantages that are available, and certain rights that they have.
Yeah, so it's having somebody in your corner that can kind of guide you through the legal. Most of us aren't really legal guys. I mean, I've been around long enough that I know that I'm not smart enough to do that, and I go get somebody to help me when that time comes. And so being able to service them and provide some help in that fashion is a big deal for you.
Absolutely, because you'll be surprised at the level of knowledge people have when they are reading over their insurance policies, and a lot of the stuff that they don't know and never even realize that they had, even certain types of coverages they never even knew they had. So it's always a good idea. And it's always very satisfying for me to be able to just go through an insurance policy step by step and also explain the legal liabilities as well that are involved.
Okay, good. And so in addition to being an attorney, I understand you're a bit of an outdoorsman.
Yeah, I like hiking. I have a lot of family here local, so I get to spend a lot of time with my nieces and nephews, go to the parks, like to travel a lot as well. Big foodie as well. So.
Big foodie,
yeah.
Really. Me too. We'll have to have discussions about it. We don't need to show everybody here what our food preferences are, but I know that I am a big foodie as well. In fact, there's a great article in the paper this morning on sushi restaurants in Orange County. That's pretty interesting. So started the practice a couple of years ago?
A couple of years ago, a partner and I, we've known each other for over 20 years, kind of grew up together. Families are close friends. And so we decided to kind of just step out on a limb and open up our own practice.
All right. And so a couple of years, what have you experienced so far? What are some of the kind of challenges that you run into in running a practice?
That's a great question. Obviously when you own your own law practice, it's not just a practice of law now. You're actually in control of the business. As opposed to, working for firms, which we previously were both engaged in, you're no longer just sitting at a desk expecting a paycheck every 2 weeks. Now every expense, everything comes out of your own pocket, whether it be marketing, whether it be getting new clients, all the expenses. So the challenges is always, it's a big financial challenge. It's something that you've really got to realize that everything is coming out of your pocket, and in order to progress, you've got to really be on top of it.
And how is it that you're finding new business opportunities?
Well, that's a good question as well. Through a network of other attorneys, a lot of attorneys that I've gone to law school with, I still keep in contact with. B&I as well, which is a great networking organization. Also the local bar association. Not only do I participate in the Orange County Bar Association, but I'm also a member out of Los Angeles as well. So every now and then I'll participate in some of their events and network with some of the attorneys there who may be involved in other practice areas, who can possibly refer me some cases, and I'll also possibly refer them some cases that I don't handle that they may handle.
So for you, would maybe your number one activity interest be growing the practice, growing the caseload?
Right.
How do I find more opportunities? How do I serve more people? Right? Because at the end of the day, that's what you're doing. Is you're serving people. You're helping them navigate through the legal morass. And how do you find them? How do you help them? Well, let's take just a minute, and we're going to go to the kind of the slideshow here real quick, and I'll walk you through a couple of different things that we've got prepared for you, and then we can have a little bit more conversation about how your insight might have shifted, some new ideas and thoughts you have, and see if we can't develop 3 action items for you.
Okay, very well.
All right, have a seat.
Oh, thank you.
That's not what I wanted. Oh, so we got, here we go. All right, so the first thing we're going to talk about is this thing called the 1% rule and your goals. And this follows along the concept of compound interest. And if you've spent any time with financial planners, they'll talk to you about how a slow and steady investing plan can generate great results at the end of a period of time. The same concept is true when it comes to running your business. The idea of getting off the hamster wheel and spending a little bit of time working on your business and improving your business on a consistent, frequent basis, what we call constant incremental compounding improvement, allows you to generate some significantly better results. And so what would happen if you improved your business results by 1% each step of the way? So we take a look at the return or improvement on the left, and we've got the timeline on the bottom, and the red line that you see there is sort of the way most people grow their particular business, right? Over time, they get a little smarter. There's no real structure, no process, and you can see that the line isn't. While it's growing, it looks better, right? And sometimes there's a few dips in there. It's not growing on a consistent basis. Now, if you were to put together a consistent, structured program for your business that allowed you to grow and improve your business on a frequency basis, then the idea is that you could you'd be employing this incremental interest process to your business, and the studies show that you would end up with 30 to 80% improvement in just 1 year. So I wanted to share this with you because this is the concept. This is what Better Business Results is really all about. It's about helping people understand that if they put some time to working on their business, even if all you do is watch this show once a week, or if you catch it on YouTube once a week, and you listen and learn to the stuff, and you build your 3 action items, then you're going to be on the linear path of constant improvement, as opposed to sort of the flexible red line that may or may not be very successful. Mm-hmm. Now, when it comes to a business, we talk about the sigmoid curve. This has to do with cycles and phases. And you're in a startup business, but every business goes through a cycle. And in this particular case, there's 3 phases. The first phase is the learning phase, and usually this is the first 1 to 5 years of a practice, right? And this is where we're really learning, and we're having to spend a lot of time and effort and energy getting better at understanding how to manage this particular practice. And then the second phase is the growth phase. So once we've built the system, we've built the process, and everything else, we talk about growing this business. The last phase is the decline phase. And this is kind of the cycle of life as much as it is the cycle of business. Things we have to watch out for on the learning phase is we've got to kind of watch out for the honeymoon trap. Sometimes we have some initial success, and unfortunately in the learning phase, though, this is where we're really spending a lot of time and energy and often money at building our system and our process. And if we take that money that we get, that we've started with or that we've initially made, and we spend it foolishly at all, then it's not going to be there to handle the downturn or the fuller expenses. And we just know that at the beginning of this particular phase, this is a place where a lot of energy and investment takes place. And so we got to be aware of the honeymoon trap. The place where I think the most vivid place that I've ever heard about this is back in the dot-com explosion, where venture capitalists were kind of throwing money at internet companies left and right, and they would hold these lavish parties, and then in the next 3 months or something, all their money would be gone. and they, there's not a whole lot of companies that came out of that like Amazon and eBay, but those two guys did a really good job. But for those two to be successful, literally thousands weren't successful. We talked about the 3 feet from gold trap. Now this is still in that learning phase, and what happens is you put in a lot of energy and effort, and you may not have quite got to the bottom of that line, and we have to understand that if you give up, then you never get really, really good. You never become an expert, right? It's an expert at all the parts and pieces, and for you and for your business, it's certainly the legal side of it, which you've had this big education, but the other side of it is the how do I run a business and how do I run a practice part. There's a lot of learning that has to go there. Mm-hmm. What we see all the time is we see people that get close, right, but then they say, I don't want to do that anymore, and they want to go to the next thing, and then they go to the next thing. And what happens is they never become an expert in the practice. Mm-hmm. And when you become an expert is when you begin to command the marketplace, right? And if you can be in the following Pareto's law, if you can be in the top 20%, then you're going to make 80% of the revenue. That's how that law kind of works. And if you could be in the top 20% of the top 20%, well, then you're in a pretty amazing space. So we've got this 3 feet from gold trap. It's another place to worry about. Once you've kind of got your system up and running, and you got a practice that's generating the revenues and stuff that you're at, and I think you're probably somewhere in this particular curve. We have the founder's trap, and that's really where you're working as many hours as you have, and you have a small team and a system, but you've only got so many fingers and so many eyeballs and so many toes to keep track of things. This is where you have to put systems and processes in place so that you can continue to grow even though you don't have any more time to spend. For those of you that are really successful, you could go to the Midas trap, and this is really just that place where you've been very, very successful, and if you're not careful, you take your eye off the ball, something might happen to you. And companies like Kodak and RIM and BlackBerry have all experienced that, where they were at the top of their particular industry, and for whatever reason didn't pay attention, didn't see the next thing, and they started to take a hit. And the next step is the denial trap. And so those companies that kind of failed to heed the Midas trap, ultimately, when their numbers started to change, they could have done something right away, but they thought things were fine and they were going to get by, and that curve actually can go all the way down to zero, and some of those companies have done that. Right? The other choice is once you're in that, once you realize the Midas trap or something is happening along the lines, is you can take that and turn that into the opportunity phase, and essentially reverse that course. Right? So how do you reinvent yourself? So then, for you, Alaa, where would you say you are on this particular curve?
Well, if I were to look at this curve, I'd probably say I'm somewhere in between, in the learning phase between the honeymoon trap and the 3 feet from gold trap. So we're still, in the learning phase, still working on the practice, still trying to get it up and running, still trying to get it to progress.
Okay. And in terms of in terms of your growth in that 3 feet from gold trap, where do you see the areas where you really need to focus the most of your attention and your energy?
I think I need to devote more of my time to becoming more of an expert in my field, and whether that be continuing to stay up on the laws and the new ever-evolving insurance policies that are coming out, as opposed to running a business. Because a lot of times I'll get wrapped up in running a business instead of focusing on what I went to law school for, was to become a lawyer and continue to involve in that aspect. So I think if I just need to find a better balance of putting more time towards the legal field than the business.
Is that the same as saying that I need to figure out how to get the business side of things done faster with less time so that I can spend more time on the legal side?
Absolutely, you can say that. I mean, if I was able to either delegate or finish those business tasks much faster than I do now and devote more time to the legal field, it'd be much better.
Okay.
At least for the practice.
And so then on the business side of things, what are the types of things that you would like to do that you think you need to get done faster and take less of your time?
It's just the general operational stuff, administrative stuff, that I think I can, if I were really to focus in on it, I could probably finish it in less time than I do now.
Okay.
But it's just a matter of me just hunkering down, finishing that task at hand, and moving on to something else.
Being more focused?
Yes.
Being able to stay in the moment on that particular item.
Yes, organization as well. I would say organization, be more organized.
Okay.
Kind of have an agenda of what needs to be, done on the business side for what particular day, and then move on to the legal stuff.
Okay. So how are you going to get better at those things?
Well, I mean, I think in talking, because I have a partner in my law office, so I think in talking to my partner and maybe, discussing these things amongst ourselves, maybe we can kind of split up the tasks. You do this, while I do this, and we can, finish it within an hour, and then have the rest of the day to work on legal stuff or legal cases, whatever we have. Writing them down or sharing them, amongst each other. Writing them on a board to hold yourself accountable, and then, a couple of days later, check in with one another to see if he's finished the tasks, I finished my tasks. It's really accountability. I think holding one another accountable will really help us get those tasks done much faster.
So do you have a good list of all of the tasks that need to be accomplished?
I think we do. I mean, there's really not, it's a pretty good amount of stuff, but it's stuff that's manageable.
Is this something where, you need to sit down with your partner and set some time on a frequent basis?
I think so.
Just go through this stuff.
I think so. I think designating a day or a time or an hour during whatever day it is, you spend an hour discussing all these things that can get done, on this particular day or during this particular time of the day would definitely be helpful. I mean, we could even take a coffee break on a Saturday, maybe meet each other up for a coffee and just go over some of the things that we need to get done, and show up in the office on Monday morning, have all those things done in the first hour of the day, and have the rest of the day to spend on the cases.
Okay. And so from a priority standpoint, earlier we talked about, I'm going to go to another slide here called the 4 stages of learning, but earlier we talked about identifying additional case opportunities. Okay. And so understanding that you're there, right, and developing additional business opportunities is much more of a business skill set than a legal skill set.
Right.
And clearly, having you stay at the top of your legal profession, that's the expertise that you're representing to be able to better service your customers and your clients. That makes total sense. And yet we still got to go find clients to service, right? So let's take a look at this next slide. This is called the 4 stages of learning. Oh, we already got that part about where you're at in the business. And so the first step is unconscious incompetence. We're going to talk about this in terms of, okay. Did I miss a slide here? I'm not certain I know. This is I'm screen sharing and presenting to everyone. Let's try it again. Are we sharing now? Okay, good. All right, 4 steps to learning, same thing, right? Unconscious incompetence. And I want to talk about this not just in your learning. We all set ourselves in this learning curve, but in terms of identifying clients to provide your services to, right? There's a bunch of clients out there that don't know who you are. Unconscious incompetence is that stage where you don't know what you don't know. And so you've got a lot of people out there that could possibly use your services, but they don't know you exist, right? Once you understand something, right, and this is the most difficult place to be from a learning standpoint, in the sense that you're not in control yourself. You have to get some additional stimulation from somewhere else. But once you do, you instantly transition to the next stage, which is called conscious incompetence. So now you know something exists, and we know, for example, now they know that N and Y law group exists, and they know necessarily maybe what it is that you provide services on and how you help them. At this particular point, they could actually make a decision, and they could say, listen, I want to learn more. I want to know more, right? And so we could give them tools and places to go where they could learn more about N and Y law group, right? At which point they could learn more about what that is, and then they would learn about why and when and how come your service would be valuable, and when to use those services, and how could we take advantage of those. And ultimately, they would become unconsciously competent, and so they would just know that they have this resource for you whenever that happens. And they might even be able to share this with somebody else. So in terms of your potential client base, right, How do you think? What's the best way to reach the people that don't know you exist?
Well, I mean, you can go out to certain community events. For example, in the Middle Eastern community, there's plenty of groups in the Anaheim area. I'll go there maybe once a month, and we'll hold free clinics. Not only legal clinics, but there's people from the medical fields, there's people from the legal clinics, stuff like that, just discussing with the general population certain rights, things that they may not be aware of. That'll bring us to light. Also discussing with other attorneys, like I said, that's always a great source of business, is talking to other attorneys who may have clients that they themselves don't even know were wronged in some way that we can help.
Okay, and so for many of us, we don't know what we don't know. We don't even know that there's a value or a benefit and an opportunity. For many of us, we're here to help and serve others. We just don't necessarily know how to do that, right? Mm-hmm. So a clinic. Now how are you getting most of your cases today?
I'd say most of it comes from other attorneys. It just becomes that way when you develop certain relationships with other attorneys who are involved in other practice areas. They're going to get an overflow of work that they don't handle necessarily. So I've been fortunate enough to have some good relationships with a lot of attorneys that I've either worked with in the past or come to know and have gone to law school with. So I have a pretty good network of other attorneys who send me work, and vice versa. I send them a lot of work that I also do not handle myself. So.
Yeah, it's not your core
right.
or your specialty. So how would you build additional relationships with attorneys?
Well, it's a good question. There's the local bar association functions that we have here in the Orange County area. There's also the Los Angeles area. There's a heavy population of plaintiff personal injury attorneys in Los Angeles. It's much more focused out there, I would say, than Orange County, and that's why I became a member of that organization, because their meetings and their functions are fantastic. They provide great benefits for MCLEs as well, which is continuing education. They have a really good event every September in Las Vegas. You can literally spend 2-3 days there. All the experts in the field are there, all the vendors. So there's a lot of information, there's a lot of networking opportunities there, and also the Chapman Alumni Association as well. Every now and then we'll have banquets and certain types of functions that I will go back to my alma mater and meet up with other attorneys in my field that I know, other attorneys who are practicing, whatever they're doing now. It's always just a great way to network, and always a great way to obtain other business. But there's also other professionals that are not necessarily not attorneys that send me cases as well, and are good referral sources as well.
What are some of those?
Some of those people may be chiropractors, physical therapists. I have some good relationships with some of those professionals. Also, pain management specialists, orthopedic doctors, and also I have good relationships with some imaging center office administrators, X-ray technicians, things like that, because they tend to work with us in our types of cases, because a lot of times when you get an injured client, those injured clients, chances are going to go seek some treatment with one of these chiropractors or physical therapists, and then may further along the way have to go see an X-ray technician or an MRI consultant. Okay.
So what do you think is the number one reason why some of these organizations refer things to you? Well, they could refer to a lot of people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good question. I would just say I've obtained their trust. I've known them for several years now. A lot of the attorneys I work with and get my cases with, I've known them for years. I've either gone to law school with them, I've gotten to know them since law school, which has almost been 9 years. It's just really I've obtained their trust, kind of a friendship as well. As long as I do right by them, they do right by me. And so it's really all about trust and honesty,
Yeah, so Stephen Covey, one of the management gurus, he's written many, many books. He's the author of 7 Habits to Highly Effective People. He described trust as the ability to make and keep commitments. Right? Simply, if you understand what it takes to be able to make a commitment, and then you can act and deliver on that commitment, that's how you build trust. Now, you can start with small commitments, and sometimes it's just about returning a phone call in a timely manner or responding to an email. And ultimately, as you build that trust, you get some more trust,
right?
And you develop it. So in terms of our discussion today, we first talked about that 1% rule, right? And we talked about a structured program. And you've talked about some different things that you could do to enhance your caseload or build better relationships, right? So from a structural standpoint, right, so that we get this thing that repeats again and again and again, what is it that you could do to put into place to make sure that you're always got consistent referral generating sources?
Well, going back to what we discussed earlier, I think the number one thing to probably put on our list is to be able to separate out the business part of it from the legal part of it, be able to delegate those tasks and finish those tasks quicker to allow us to focus on the legal side and obtaining new clientele.
Okay. And how frequent should you plan or structure these types of activities?
I would say at least once a week.
And so this is you and your partner getting together once a week and going through the business activities. Now, what about the call it the referral relationship activities, right?
Yeah, I would probably say, based on the last month or 2 months or so, I've been spending a lot more time working on that, and I've been developing more of a structure, and I think this structure can still, progress, and that would be meeting with some of these other professionals in my field who practice different areas of law, going to certain different meetings and stuff like that, spending more time getting to know people in and out of the legal field.
Would allocating some time on a weekly basis, so once a week, now I know we're in the same B&I organization, so we spend a little bit of time obviously there, and again, that's structured time where we're designed to develop relationships, but we also know that we could do this in other areas. Is there something else you could do on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis or just once a month? What would be your structure, your plan to help that?
I would probably say like more of on a bi-weekly basis, attend more seminars, more meetings that are going on in the local community. That will definitely enhance our opportunity to get more clientele. They're all available to us. It's just really just depends on really allocating the time and making sure it fits within your schedule. You can make it fit within your schedule. It's just allocating the time and executing.
Okay, so we've gone through a couple different things. We went through the 1% rule. We went through the sigmoid curve, kind of where you're at on that. We went through the 4 steps to learning, and you've identified 3 action items. One of those, stop me if I'm wrong, clarify, one of those is to spend some time with your partner on a weekly basis, an hour, going through call it the administrative tasks, right? Then we talked about setting up time maybe on a bi-weekly basis to focus in on these additional networking opportunities, different groups, right? What's a third thing that you might come up with?
I think a third thing would be maybe holding a monthly clinic.
Okay.
Having a monthly clinic. Right now, like I mentioned, there's a Middle Eastern community that you can go to and basically set up your own booth and kind of discuss amongst other professionals what it exactly you do, and bring to light exactly what you do to some of these people. But maybe I can specifically have one for personal injury to educate people about personal injury and limit it only to that without having to be in a full-on conference room with other professionals. Kind of just isolate myself and be able to have something at my office maybe on a Saturday once a month.
Right. Okay. So we got 3 good action items that allow you to do something a little bit different. We've taken a half an hour and got you off the hamster wheel, do a little thinking about some different stuff. The next challenge people have, right, because we read a book, we see movies, we get all this kind of stuff, we say, yeah, I'm going to do A, B, C, and the problem we run into is how do we hold ourselves accountable, right? Because in our own head, we say we're going to do it, and then we give ourselves a free pass when we don't do it. It happens all the time. So what are your tips for holding yourself accountable? How do you expect to do that?
Well, the good thing about my practice is I have somebody else to talk to and discuss it with, so we can motivate each other and push each other to do it and hold each other accountable.
Okay. Yeah, excellent approach. All right, then. I think we've got our goal. Come, you join me back up here, and we haven't figured out how to necessarily move our way past the next stage, but I want to thank you for joining me today. I appreciate the time, the energy, the comments, and hope the audience appreciates it as well. For those of you that joined us today, thank you very much. For those of you that watch this later on YouTube or visit us on any of the other pages where we display the show, we appreciate your time and your attention. That's it for today. We're going to be back doing this show next Thursday, but we're going to be doing it from Las Vegas because I'm a keynote speaker for the Focal Point International Conference in Las Vegas next week. That's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to take a little bit of time out of that conference to do the show. So thanks, and have a great week, guys. That's it. Thank you.